Good morning and welcome to Let's Learn. This is T-Pain speaking, and I am going to be teaching you all about Python. And with this series of tutorials, I'm going to actually be covering a whole bunch of topics ranging from the very basics to advanced topics later on down the line. And what I want is for you to follow along with me and work with me as we do this, because that is how you're going to get the most out of this. First, I'll go through a whole bunch of theory and explain this to you, and then we'll start diving right in. So first of all, what is Python? Python is a flexible programming language. So why learn it? It can do so much. It's free. It works on Windows, Mac, Linux. You can build custom scripts for Maya, Motion Builder, Nuke. They all support it. You can go into game development with it. You can bind it to user interfaces for tool development. You can script everyday tasks for the web, for file organization, for Excel even if you wanted to. It has so much potential. It's easy to learn and it looks really good on your resume. Okay, so where you download it? You download it here on python.org/getit. So the version that we're going to be working with is 2.7.3, and you can find that below 3.3 right here. And it's free to download, and it plugs right into just about any platform you need. So where to get help? If you're ever at all struggling with Python, just start searching on Google with Python, and then whatever your problem is, whether it be sine, you're looking for sines. Then boom, you can go into mathematical functions. There's tons of forums on Stack Overflow dedicated to Python. Look there. So after you download and install Python, you should install it in the main directory, the C drive. Was mine, and it's going to be right here under Python 2.7. And then if you want to, you can follow along with python.exe, which will open up the command line, or the terminal if you're on Mac. Or you can open up idle, which is what I'm going to be using. And it comes built right in when you install Python. All right, so here we are in idle. So variables are containers for any kind of data. So I want you to type in var, V-A-R, equals 5. Enter. Okay? This is your way of assigning a variable. You type in first whatever you want to name it, then an equal sign, and then the value you wish to store. So if I type var, enter, it outputs 5, the value I have assigned to it. So now that value is bound to that variable. I can assign any number of types of variables, which we will get into later, but for now we're just going to work with integers. So I can name it anything I want, and it will stick. I can name in just a whole bunch of garbage like ASDF equals 5 equals 4, and if I punch in that again, that value will be spit back out. Now, this is where naming is very important. You want to be as explicit as possible with your naming. Meanwhile, pay attention to the capitalization. For one of my preferences, and a preference I've seen for a lot of Python programmers, is variables start off lowercase for the first word and then capitalize the first letter of the next word. So if I were to type big foot, that's exactly how I type it. Lowercase big, uppercase F, and then lowercase ut equals 4. So I want you to type in big foot 4. This is a good practice to get into. And then type it again to make sure that the value is stuck. Be careful not to include any spaces in your variable names. So big foot could type in big space foot equals 5 or 35 or whatever, and you'll notice you get a syntax error. And what this means is that there's some sort of error that in the way you typed it in. And the reason being is because I included that space in between big and foot. So go ahead and try that one more time. Big foot with a space in between equals 56, whatever. And you'll get that same error. So don't include spaces. Instead, just capitalize the first letter of every other word. So big foot equals 4. There we go. Excellent work. So we know that we can assign values with the equal sign. Now we can also reassign values with the equal sign. So I'm going to go ahead and say big capital F ut is equal to 7. And I'm going to type Bigfoot again. Go ahead and try that yourself. Type in big capital F ut Bigfoot is equal to 7, and then type it again. And you'll see that the value is reassigned. All right, now we're going to begin on one of my favorite topics, math. So Python has a built-in math function that you can just punch right in. So let's type in 5 plus 5. What do you think is going to happen? 10. Good job. You guessed correctly. It actually will spit out the answer depending on what it is. So I can do like 2 plus 4 or 4 plus 6, and it'll give me the answers. You can also do 4 minus. You can do the standard math operations. You can do multiplication, and it'll figure it out. I want you to try out a couple different math operations: the plus, the addition, the subtraction, division, and multiplication. Star is for multiplication, so we can go 32 times 32. Enter. Try that. 32 divided by 32. Try that. Now we're going to get into something that is very important. What I want you to do now is type in 3 divided by 2. What do you think is going to happen? All right. 3 divided by 2, if you were to punch it into a calculator, would be 1.5. But here, it punched out 1. It returned a value of 1. Now what's going on is it's interpreting the values as integer values. Integers are simply numbers without decimal points. They're whole numbers. Floating values or floating point values are numbers that have a decimal point somewhere in the value. Thus the name floating point is the dot can be anywhere in the value. So go ahead and try that real quick. Type in 100.0, enter. And you'll see that it sticks out that 0.0 at the end. That's its way of saying, hey, I know this is a floating point value. Try just typing 100 now. And you'll see that there is no decimal point. Note that it maintains the 0.0 at the end of it. This is the difference between integers and floating points. So now let's try that 3 divided by 2 again. But this time we're going to go 3 divided by 2.0. Enter. And now we get the correct answer. This is the difference between integers and floating points. If Python is given one value that's a floating point, it'll convert everything else to a floating point, or it'll try its best. It's best to explicitly say it's a floating point by adding a 0.0 at the end of it if you can. Another way you can do that is we can actually punch in a explicit conversion of integers to floats. And the way you do that is you type float parentheses 3 close parentheses divided by 2. And now it'll convert one of those values. It'll convert the 3 to a floating point value. And it'll stick. So try that. Try punching in float parentheses 5 close parentheses divided by 4. Enter. And now we get 1.25, which is the correct answer. The same can be done in the reverse. So we typed in float, open close parentheses, to convert an integer or some value into a floating point value. Okay? So we can also do the same of converting a float back to an integer value using int, open close parentheses, with 3.0 inside. Type that. And now we have a integer value returned. So int, open close parentheses. So this is how you solve for rounding errors. Some other math operations you may want to know about is the remainder. And the way you use that is you type in 5 percent sign 4. So go ahead and type that in. And then press enter. So what this is saying is how much remains after I take out a whole bunch of number 4s out of 5. 1 remains. So another example of this would be like if I were to punch in 10 percent sign 5. Go ahead and type that in. And what you get out is 0 because 10 is divisible by 5. Go ahead and type 11% 5. And you'll be spit out 1. It's because 1 overflows. So the remainder is very useful for when you're doing loops and a number of other operations we'll do down the road. So next we're going to learn about powers, and my favorite way to assign power values is using star star. So we're going to type 12 star star 2. Enter. And now we get 144. That's 12 squared because we just assigned the square value. And you can assign this for square roots as well. So I'm going to type in 16 star star 0.5. Go ahead and type that in, press enter. So again, take note that it converts everything to a floating point value when a floating point value is passed in. So we get out 4.0, which is the square root of 16. Perfect. So back in algebra, you may have learned that you can use parentheses to close off specific parts of the algebra. The same works in programming. So if I type 5 times parentheses 5 plus 5, close parentheses, enter, it works the exact same. It adds the 2 5s first that are closed within the parentheses and then multiplies them by the other 5. And so we end up with 50. So it's 10 times 5 is 50. So parentheses work the exact same. So there's a number of other math functions that you can use, like the absolute value, sine value, cosine value, floor, ceiling, etc., from the math import section. All right, guys, great job keeping up today. You did an excellent work. All right, so here are some examples for you. I want you to discover for yourself what they actually do. A lot of the greatest programming comes out of curiosity, so be curious. If you like the video or have any questions, please leave me a comment. I'll be sure to get back to them when I can. Also, be sure to subscribe and check out my Facebook link below. Hello, I'm T-Pain, and welcome to another Let's Learn Python. Thanks so much for joining me. If you feel like skipping ahead to any one of the chapters above or even the examples, feel free to click into the buttons. Okay, so let's get started right away. Again, we're using Python 2.7.3. Open up idle in your window and follow along with me to get the most out of this exercise. All right, so I'll give you a second to do that. Okay, so the focus today is on more data types and data structures. So we're going to be going over strings, tuples,